That is the village of Kunoma there in the back. Very beautiful. There. As a guide, you need to pay for a guide to take you through the village. It's 500 rupees and 1,000 rupees if you want a guide to take you through the village and to take you down. You can rent a guide for the whole day as well. Through the village is like an hour, basically 500 rupees for that. It's not that expensive. That's like, what's it, 200 to 300? No, 100. Oh, I need to figure out now in dollars how much that is. I still need to like kind of work through the butt, and which is 2.5. So that's 250, 500. So it's 200, and then in dollars, so it would be like 18, $17 or something like that. Anyhow, just to give you an idea. So for an hour, get a guide. You can ask lots of questions. They explain very well and learn a lot about their culture. I think if you just respectful towards them, to the guides, and you can learn more than if you just think you know everything. Ask questions and learn a little bit from their culture. So, Exodus 12 verse 37. The Israelites journeyed from Ramses to Succoth. There were about 600,000 men on foot, besides women and children. So their journey now starts. They moved from Ramses to Succoth. And trust me, I've seen so many different versions of how, so many people have an idea of exactly how they traveled, where exactly did they go, etc., etc. Right? Like Mount Zion, not Mount Zion, Zion, where God gave the Ten Commandments to Moses, is now being turned into a whole resort kind of idea, in present day, that is. But we don't exactly know which path these people followed, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. So many Bible scholars, there's many ideas as well concerning this. But what I want to get to is more that there were 600,000 men on foot, besides women and children. Now, if you think of 600 men, and you think of baby boys being killed, why? Okay, so let's think. Aaron was not, seemingly his life was not in danger by being thrown into the Nile. Moses was. Moses was born 3 years after Aaron, and that would imply in that time this edict or command of Pharaoh came out to drown, kill the boys, and then and then the whole story with the ladies helping with the birth, and then that didn't work, so then the drowning part came. So that would have been then basically just over 40 years before this. And it doesn't seem as if anything really happened. Sorry, not 40 years, 80 years before this, because by then Moses was 80 years old, right? So it doesn't seem as if anything really changed in that. We don't read as if things changed, but again, it might have changed. Maybe the original worked and then there was not need for it. Maybe it worked too well, and then the men who could do the work were becoming too few, and they kind of had to. It's not like in China, the one-child policy of a couple of decades ago. And now they don't have a one-child policy anymore. Now they want to have the people to have children, and the people are now paid to get children. Why? Because their numbers stagnated and actually starting to go down. While India, people have started. They are now China used to be the most populated country. Now India is the most populated country. And they have a problem with that in China. They have a problem with that in Japan. They have a huge problem with that in Korea, South Korea, that is, and Thailand even, right? Aging of a population, and who's going to do the jobs? So maybe, again, we don't know exactly. So we can't deduce that they were still killing the firstborn sons. It might have only gone on for 40 years and they stopped it because of the lack of manpower then. And so that makes it already difficult. The Bible doesn't state that information. If you think, all of those children, so in other words, if you go from the point of view that all the children, the baby boys, were still killed, then if there are 600,000 men 80 years later, like, how did they all survive? I mean, how did they all survive? And how many more women ought there to be compared to and girls, right? So if all the men were killed and some survived, then man, and the women not killed, then there could have been millions and millions of women compared to the men. So it is, what I'm getting at is to try and look at these numbers of that. It is very difficult. It's very difficult, therefore, to say exactly how many women and children there would have been. There's lots of presuppositions, things that we need to take for granted, or if we don't know how the culture, the history actually more, the laws of Pharaoh, another Pharaoh, how it all changed. The other problem, I'm just going to, there's lots of problems here, I mean, not in the Bible itself, but in the numbering, or at least to figure out how many Jews there were at that stage, Israelites. Okay, the other problem is that there are people from other tribes and nations are going to go with them. Now, would you say that they are included amongst the 600,000 warriors here? Or were they excluded? Were they seen as just workers for them, servants to them? Or were they seen as possible future warriors to them? Again, we don't know. Okay, it seems as if you look at the story of Caleb and Joshua, Caleb was not an Israelite. He was one of those from other nations that followed with. Now, if they take that into account, and Caleb was sent out as a spy, then it seems as if they did use the people from others. So if they are foreigners or other, then they most likely would have committed or associated themselves with some with a different tribe. So some of them might have associated themselves with Judah, others with Simeon, others with Benjamin, whatever. And so that might be, they might not have been originally from them, but they might have associated with them and therefore in a certain sense became part of them. And then they could have been counted as part of the 6,000. But again, is that true? Did that really happen? If you look at the example of Caleb, it seems as if it did. But we can't say for sure.